All right, the title of this project is called Translational Research on Empathy and Behavior Analysis. This was a project that was done for my doctoral program at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology for class PA 620. Translational research seeks to bridge the gap between basic and applied research. Basic research and applied research are two major components of behavior analysis that are oftentimes looked at as separate entities. Basic research is typically characterized by laboratory work with animals that seeks to understand and explain behavioral principles and concepts. Applied research is typically characterized as research conducted with humans that seeks to improve socially significant behaviors of individuals. Both basic and applied research are important to the field of behavior analysis. Mace and Critchfield in 2010 defined translational research as inquiry that breaks new ground by uniting a concern for fundamental principles with a concern for everyday problems and outcomes. Empathy is one topic that has been studied in basic behavior analytic research, but is yet to be studied in depth in applied research. Translational research on the subject of empathy, specifically in the field of autism, where I practice, is necessary to gain insight into the applied relevance with humans. So now we're going to talk about the purpose of this project. So empathy, or lack thereof, is a major concern with children with autism, as these individuals are typically characterized by deficits in social communication and tend to lack prosocial or empathy-like behaviors. Although behavior analysts have studied empathy behaviors in the laboratory with rats and non-humans, translational research has been limited on methods to which empathy can be taught to individuals with autism who display deficits in admitting these empathy-like or helping behaviors. So the purpose of the current paper is to discuss research that's been conducted in the basic laboratory on empathy and to provide a review of research which has been conducted with individuals with autism, some more of the applied research. In addition, the current paper will introduce a research idea on an applied model of empathy and provide suggestions for future translational research. So first, we're going to look at some of the basic behavior analytic research that studies empathy-like behaviors in the laboratory settings. So we're going to talk about Bartel et al. In 2011, Bartel et al. In 2014, and Sato et al. In 2015. So first, we're going to talk about both of the Bartel studies. They were somewhat similar, but with different findings, and studied empathy under different conditions. So basic research has studied empathy behaviors in depth with rats. So Bartel et al. In 2011 and Bartel et al. In 2014 examined whether rats demonstrated prosocial or empathy-motivated behaviors, which kind of looks like helping behaviors, under a variety of different conditions. In both studies, free rats were placed in an arena next to a caged or trapped rats, and measures of door-opening behaviors were calculated and inferred as prosocial and empathy behaviors. Bartel et al. In 2011 found that when given a choice between freeing a caged rat and accessing a reinforcer, freed rats worked diligently to free caged rats despite of a more preferred choice being available, which was chocolate. That was in the other cage, so they still chose to free the caged rats before accessing a reinforcer. In addition, they found that freed rats worked to free the caged rats even when this behavior did not lead to access of social interaction with the caged rats. The results of Bartel et al. In 2014 had similar findings, in that freed rats worked to free a caged rat despite the helping behavior having no perceived reinforcing value to the free rat. The study also found that rats did not free caged rats in which they had no familiarity with. So the results of both of the Bartel et al. Studies suggest that rats display helping behaviors indicative of empathy, and social influences such as familiarity or rapport may be factors that influence empathy behavior. In addition, this article provides a laboratory model of empathy suggesting it may be operationally defined by behavior admitted in choice paradigms, which result in choices that provide little or no benefit to the subject, but help another organism. Another basic study that was conducted in 2015 by Sato and colleagues examined various conditions in which a rat would demonstrate prosocial behavior or empathy-like behaviors. In their study, free and dry rats helped free a soaked and trapped rat from aversive conditions. The soaked rat was trapped in water. Interestingly, the results found that the free rats were more likely to help the soaked rat when it had a history of being soaked themselves. These results demonstrate that rats engage in empathy-like behaviors, particularly when they have gone through the same distress they are helping others to avoid. I'm now going to talk about some of the research in the applied world of behavior analysis that relates to empathy. So we'll be reviewing 3 studies, Schrant and Poulsen in 2009, Johnson et al. In 1976, and Marzullu-Kurth et al. In 2011. So while rats and empathy studied in the basic literature were using choice paradigms, empathy is typically studied in the applied literature by looking at verbal and nonverbal behavioral responses of humans. So in a study conducted by Schrant and Poulsen in 2009, empathy was operationally defined as contextually appropriate responses such as "Are you okay?" or affect, which were nonverbal behaviors of sadness and pain, seeing this as a reaction. So 4 children with autism were observed vignettes with dolls and puppets. The instructors utilized a teaching package which involved prompt delay, modeling, manual prompts, behavioral rehearsal, reinforcement to teach the children appropriate empathy responses to the vignettes. The results demonstrated that the teaching methods were effective in increasing empathy responses, and it generalized to real people. Over time, however, responding dropped to baseline levels once the reinforcement was removed. So although the previous study, the Schrant and Poulsen 2009, assessed empathy by verbal behavior or empathetic responding, Johnson, and Anderson in 1976 took more of that basic model of empathy by studying the effects of different teaching strategies, specifically cooperative teaching versus individualistic teaching, on empathy behaviors using choice paradigms. So, for example, to study prosocial behavior, the children in the study were given an altruism task in which they were presented with choice situations, where they could give another child more tokens and themselves less tokens, or vice versa. The results suggested that cooperative compared to individualistic teaching resulted in greater prosocial behavior, which was defined as giving others in need a reward without directly benefiting to the subject itself. This study demonstrates that environmental factors such as teaching or even maybe parenting styles can be utilized as an independent variable which directly impacts a child's ability to form these prosocial behaviors. In addition, this study shows that empathy can be studied using the basic model of those choice paradigms. The final applied study to be discussed is that of Marzullu-Kurth et al. In 2011. So Marzullu-Kurth et al. In 2011 defined prosocial behaviors as a broad class of responses that include smiling, cooperating, taking turns, making friends, expressing empathy, helping others, and sharing. So 3 children with autism were taught to engage in sharing behaviors. And so sharing can be looked at as empathy because the behavior of giving up a toy to another child is a behavior that benefits the other child and provides no direct benefit to the subject, which seems to be the overarching theme of what empathy is in all the studies we've looked at. A multiple exemplar teaching package, which consisted of video modeling and prompting, was used. And so specifically, these children were taught to share items from multiple classes of materials. So they were taught to share art materials, snack foods, toys, and gym materials. Generalization was assessed both within the classes of materials just discussed and across non-taught classes of materials. The results showed that the teaching packages were effective in increasing sharing behavior for all 3 subjects, which indicates an increase in prosocial behavior. So as can be seen from the reviews of both the applied and the basic research on empathy, empathy has been operationally defined in numerous ways, through choice paradigms, empathetic responses to situations, altruism tasks, sharing behavior. It's also been systematically enhanced in the applied literature by various teaching packages, which involve video modeling, prompting, and artificial reinforcement. Given the conceptual nature of empathy, studying one variable, such as just studying empathetic responding or just studying sharing, may not be a true depiction of empathy behavior. So future research, in my opinion, should look at an array of behaviors that can be used as dependent variables for empathy. So a potential research idea would be to study the effects of maybe video modeling or another teaching package, but specifically on teaching children with autism empathetic responding in the presence of multiple exemplars of discriminative stimuli. So for example, one could teach the correct verbal and nonverbal responses when an individual is distressed. So maybe teaching children with autism how to respond if someone falls down, gets injured, loses a toy. Maybe we could teach children with autism the verbal and nonverbal responses in the presence of seeing someone with certain emotions, so happy, sad, confused. Maybe we want to teach them in the presence of situations where helping behaviors are required, so a mom needs help locating an item, a child loses a toy. In addition, researchers may study if increases in the above empathy-like behaviors then leads to a more empathetic choice making by utilizing those choice paradigms we saw in the basic literature. So for example, if a child is taught to correctly respond to individuals in distress and to individuals' emotions and in situations where helping behaviors are required, would this then lead to a child showing empathy behaviors when deciding whether to reward another child versus rewarding themselves like they did in the Schrant et al. In 2009 study? So looking at these variables may lead to a more comprehensive study and a more large-scale definition of empathy. And these are the references, and I hope you enjoyed the project.